I'm not 100% sure how I would respond to that, really. I think I would struggle, if I'm honest.
I would know that I should do, but in all honesty, I think I would really struggle to.
I know sort of where I'd go, but the help that I'd get, I wouldn't be 100% sure what it is.
I don't have an awful lot of faith in the services out there through like the NHS, because everyone knows they're all overburdened.
I think there's quite a lot of stigma around still. We're always taught to be like, don't cry and be strong.
I think it, more often than not, it's stigma. It's the fear of being judged for admitting that you've got this weakness, that you've got a problem with your mental health.
I think sometimes people don't know that they need help when they need help, and so the cry for help is often too late. They don't feel comfortable to go and talk to someone as if someone may understand them and really listen to them and be able to help signpost them.
Although we're making major improvements, I still feel there's a major stigma in relation to mental health, more so men. I find that a lot.
Feeling that they don't deserve help or they don't need help, as everyone thinks there's always someone worse off than me. But that could also be like a financial thing. Asking for help or getting help and support sometimes isn't free.
I think some of it might just be lack of awareness of what support is there. So knowing who to talk to, and I guess the other part of it would probably be perhaps fear or worry.
Stigma was a huge one for me, and almost the demonisation of mental health. That made me feel as if sharing my mental ill health was a weakness or a failure.
It's interesting because I think, the term person-centred is used a lot by professionals, but I wonder, if they really understand what that means.
I think the biggest thing is making that first step. I've been in a situation where I've really wanted to in the past, and have actually phoned up a helpline to do that, and hung up a couple of times before I've got through to that person.
So it's about treating me as an individual and understanding that initially it may be that I just need that actual face-to-face interaction to have that initial conversation so that trust and rapport is built.
Personally, I'm a very kind of stubborn kind of person, and I kind of think that I can, try and deal with things myself, and I find it really difficult to open up, I think.
If we had a problem with our physical health, we would go and see our GP immediately, but with mental health it's often not the case, and people will worry that others will see them as weak and not being able to cope.
Personally, I haven't really, but my father did. He actually struggled both mentally and physically with his health. So when he sold his farm that he had, it didn't go very well with the sale, and unfortunately he actually passed away when I was 22 of heart failure. So I've been really aware of the impact of trauma, traumatic events, stressful events, and the impact that can have.
In about 2011, just over 10 years ago now, one day I was at work and suddenly I was feeling overwhelmed to the point that it felt like it physically consumed me. I got up from my desk, I left the office I was working in, and all my colleagues who I knew well, including my management team, I sat down on the floor and just burst into tears, and at that point I knew something wasn't right with me. I was able to phone my line manager. She came very quickly and found me. So the next day, I think it was my mum or my dad, one of them went with me to see my local GP, and they told me that I had signs of depression. That led to being signed off work for 3 months, been on 40 milligrams of citalopram at the kind of height of that, meeting with counsellors, going through CBT, going back to my childhood and trying to unpick what was going on around me and why I was feeling the way I was feeling.
I struggled with depression about 20 years ago when my dad died, and I really understood what had happened to me. The depression made sense, and I was able to work my way through that. Fast forward sort of 14 years later, and I found myself facing an anxiety disorder, which at the time, as what I thought was a very competent human being, I suddenly found myself, trapped. instead of me fighting it every day, what I've realised through my therapy recently has been actually this fight became exhausting, and it was more about me trying to find techniques and skills to learn to live with it.
I went through an incredibly dark, difficult period at 18, 19 years old. I suffer every day, every single day.
Yeah, so I think when I was around 26, I started to see some patterns of behaviour almost. I was in London in a very high-pressured role, and I think I started to see signs of anxiety. Just started to get very nervous about going into work, socialising with friends. But a couple of years later, I really struggled with burnout, and I didn't know what burnout was at the time. I was depressed. I couldn't get out of bed on my days off. I was lucky. I managed to get help at the right time, and I think now it's just helped me for my future ahead.